जॉली, एक तो ये ज़रा देख लेना प्लीज़ कि क्या आई हैव स्टार्टेड स्ट्रीमिंग, तो यूट्यूब में ज़रा चेक करना। ओह अच्छा लक्ष्मी, एक तो यूट्यूब में मैंने स्ट्रीमिंग चालू कर दी है, तो एक तो वो चेक करने के लिए बोलना, ठीक है। और फ़ोन जो है मतलब कोई होगा तो मेरे को मैसेज कर देना, आकांक्षा से बोल देना जॉली को दिन मीटिंग या ऑफ कर देना, ठीक है। ओके थैंक्स। हेलो। हाँ जॉली। हाँ स्टार्ट कर। क्यों स्टॉप करूँ? स्टॉप नहीं कर सकती। आ रही हूँ। हमने 3:55 को चालू कर दिया है। नॉर्मली तो वो लोग 10 मिनट पहले ही आ जाते हैं। आ रहे होंगे। ठीक है ओके। कुछ और होगा तो मेरे को बस बता देना, ठीक है। आई विल ऑल्सो ट्राई टू सी इफ द वॉइस इज कमिंग और नॉट। एवरीथिंग शुड वर्क एज यूजुअल, लेकिन इन केस अगर नहीं होता है या कुछ और होता है या फर्स्ट जॉली एट अराउंड 4 o'clock जस्ट से वी विल स्टार्ट मोमेंटरली। द मोमेंट यू से दैट Srishti has joined, ठीक है, then the moment you say that I will know if everything's working fine. Yeah, yeah, ठीक है, ओके थैंक्स बाय।
Very good evening, Ms. Jolly. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Please give me a minute.
Yes, yes. Good evening, everyone. We will start momentarily. गलती से एक सेकंड में Hi, Srishti, are you there? Shall
Yes,
we
I'm
start?
here. Yes, please, we can begin.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome, dear teachers, students, and esteemed officials from UNESCO. Before we start, please note that this session is being recorded. The record will be available for future reference, so you can revisit our discussions. Let me introduce myself. I am Jolie Reggie from United Schools Organization of India. I am the coordinator for this program. Today marks the final session in our enlightening webinar series on Biosphere Reserves. Today, excited to delve into the topic of human rights and environment law. So, what exactly is Biosphere Reserve Champions? Biosphere Reserve Champions is a national competition designed to promote sustainable futures geared towards school students from standard 6 to 12. Our aim is to engage students in the protection and sustainable management of the Earth's biosphere reserves. This program is organized by the United Schools Organization of India, USO, in collaboration with UNESCO. Together, we strive to advance the cause of sustainable development through education and active engagement. Now, may I request my colleague, Ms. Akansha, to say about USO and UNESCO.
Thank you, Jolly ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Now let me share with you about the USO and its purpose within the educational society. United Schools Organization of India is a registered society established in 1951, registered under the Indian Societies Registration Act 21. It is our mandate to advance the social, cultural, and moral standard of students in India to global levels by providing schools access to extracurricular tests, seminars, conferences, competitions, campaigns, and programs on a national platform. It is our vision to create a future where every school in our nation has access to a vibrant and enriching extracurricular ecosystem that fosters individual talents, instill values, and empower educators and students to excel academically and as responsible global citizens. Now, let me introduce with you all about the UNESCO. UNESCO is the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. It seeks to build peace through international cooperation in education, the sciences and culture. UNESCO's programs contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals defined in Agenda 2030 adopted by the UN General Assembly in 2015. Now let's hand it over to Jolly ma'am. She will guide you through the session.
Thank you, Ms. Akansha. As you know, this program focuses on 5 sustainable development goals, that is SDGs are SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, SDG 13, climate change, and last one, SDG 15, life on land. This program is divided into 3 phases. Currently, phase 1 is ongoing. Phase 1 includes a webinar series, community cleanup drive, and an awareness camp. Today, the first step, the webinars will be completed. I will discuss the next step at the end of the session. Over the past 2 days, we have embarked on an educational journey gaining insights from experts in the field. On the first day, we had the privilege of learning about UNESCO and Biosphere Reserves from Dr. Beno and Dr. Neha Mehta. Their extensive knowledge and experience provided us a profound understanding of the significance and management of these vital areas. Yesterday, again, our second webinar focused on plastic and agroforestry, featuring enlightening discussions led by Mr. Ruben and Ms. Harisri Otoyot. They shed light on the intricate relationship between plastic pollution and sustainable agricultural practices, leaving us with the valuable takeaways. Today, we are excited to delve into the topic of human rights and environmental law. Our distinguished speakers, Ms. Srishti Kumar and Dr. Neha Mehta, will guide us through the intricate connections between human rights and environmental sustainability. I am confident that their insights will be immensely beneficial for both students and teachers alike. Now, let me introduce our eminent speakers. Ms. Srishti Kumar is working as a program assistant with the Natural Science Unit, UNESCO, New Delhi. She is a law graduate from Symbiosis International, and she holds a master's degree in human rights law and various postgraduate diplomas in the field of medical law and ethics, international affairs and diplomacy, and environmental law from National Law School of India, University, Bangalore. She is also passionate about environment conservation, community engagement, humanitarian laws. She is also actively involved in humanitarian initiatives like Food Project and other awareness campaigns on environmental conservation. Welcome, Srishti.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jolly, ma'am.
And next, our speaker, Dr. Neha Mehta. Srishti, Neha is there?
Yes, she's there because she'll be taking up the question and answers towards the end. But
at
yes,
the Natural Science Unit, UNESCO, New Delhi office. She has more than 12 years of experience in natural resource management, water resource management, and wildlife conservation. Her academic background includes a PhD in natural resource management from the Wildlife Institute of India and a post-graduation in environment management from the Forest Research Institute, India. Now, Neha is there, Srishti? Welcome,
yes.
Neha and Srishti, to both of you. Now I will hand over to you, Ms. Srishti. The control to you, may please start your session.
Please give me a minute, ma'am. I will just upload the presentation. Is my screen visible?
Srishti, I think you are not audible.
Am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. And is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you so much. I will take it up from here. Very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Srishti, and thank you very much for the short introduction about me, Ms. Jolly. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible? I just wanted to check.
Yes, you are audible. Please continue.
Okay, so just a brief introduction about me. I've done my bachelor's in law, and I have a specialization in human rights law, and I'm working as a program assistant in the natural science sector in UNESCO. And I first of all, I would like to welcome all of you here, and I hope that throughout all these 2 days you have been learning quite a lot, and I'm pretty confident that you would have definitely good takeaways with you that would really help you out in the future in terms of your learning and even for this competition. So briefly, basically the whole agenda of this presentation is to introduce you to a little aspect of the environmental law and the human rights law. I will be touching upon that, but I really don't want to bombard you with a lot of legal information. So I will be touching on other aspects also which actually affect your day-to-day lives. So beginning with environmental law and human rights. So for the first slide, I hope the slide is moving. So what is environmental law? In simple terms, so since first and foremost, because I know that the students are from a standard of 6 to 12, And on the basis of an understanding, I would like to actually keep it very, very simple, because I definitely want all of you to have a takeaway from this session as well. And I will be explaining everything very slowly and briefly. In case you have any doubts, then you can raise those doubts towards the end of the session, and I will be happy to take those up. So in simple terms, environmental law is the set of rules and regulations that have been created to protect our planet and its natural resources. So by the name of it, you can of course figure it out that environmental law is basically to protect the whole environment around us. And with the times that we are living in today, you as a young generation are definitely facing a lot of things with environmental changes, with climate change, even the impact of this environmental changes on your health. So definitely this is a very, very imperative and important subject for you, even at school level. Despite I totally understand that there might be many of you who might have taken legal studies in your class 11th and 12th, but I think this is one such subject which you should definitely know about, because it directly links and impacts your life. So it covers forests, wildlife, flora, fauna, air, water, and it basically sets the standards to prevent pollution and to protect the wildlife. Now, you would simply ask me, like, how are we as humans linked to environmental law? So environmental law not only protects the nature, but it also ensures that everyone, all of us, have a clean air to breathe, safe water to drink, and a healthy environment to live in. And so this is also a very basic human right law that all of us have. And this is not something that, it has been given to us as an incentive, but this is something that is our birthright, to have clean air, to actually have safe drinking water, and to live in safe and healthy environments so that we can have a better future. So environmental laws, even if some of you might not know that how the environmental laws, they have evolved over the years, but we can actually also link the environmental law towards our ancient times, because the concern towards the environment has always been there. And we can actually see that even the ancient traditions of respecting nature, showing how the cultures around the world have actually long valued of how important environment is for human survival. Going on to the next one. So in the presentation that I'm showing you, you will find these random facts at the bottom, wherever you will see this bulb-like structure, and you can actually read those, and I think it's going to be beneficial for you. So as per our Indian Constitution, Article 48A, it directs the state to protect and improve the environment. So the state here is basically the government of the country, and they have a duty to basically safeguard your rights and provide you a healthy environment. And this happens basically with the new and upcoming policies that you will see actually that are actually ongoing. And many of the policies, many of the laws that have come into place are all a result of this particular article. Moving on to the next one. So why environmental law is required? Environmental law is required because the kind of picture that you're seeing on the screen is very much prevalent. So we need the environmental law to basically safeguard our environment. If we don't have the correct policies, if we don't have the rules and regulations, the scenario that we are seeing today is going to continue to happen, and we will actually reach a particular time where things will absolutely go out of our hands if we don't take the right kind of action at the right time. So the Stockholm Declaration, it's one of the first major international documents that actually recognize that there's an interdependence between the human rights and the environmental protection. So environment is not just to, safeguard whatever is near to us, but it is also actually completely interconnected with how we live, what is our quality of life, on the basis of how our environment is. Article 51A(g) of Indian Constitution places a duty on every citizen to protect and improve the natural environment. So if you get a right basically to use something, you always have a duty to even safeguard it. So you have a right to basically enjoy, to utilize the natural resources of the earth. You get fresh air to breathe, you get clean drinking water through rivers. So you also have, as citizens, a duty to basically protect and improve the environment that you're living in. Moving on to the next one. So these are the key environmental laws in India. If you ask me internationally, I've just listed 3 because, again, I didn't want to bombard you with a lot of information. So the 3 international agreements that are relevant to you is, first is the Paris Agreement. It basically is crucial for climate change, for setting the goals to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So that is the Paris Agreement. The second one is the Convention on Biodiversity. That is crucial for the conservation of biodiversity, as the name can suggest, and it promotes sustainable use of natural resources. The third one is the Montreal Protocol, which is crucial for protecting the ozone layer. So you can basically just remember that, the Paris Agreement is important for the greenhouse gas emissions. The Convention on the Biodiversity is relevant for your sustainable and natural use of natural resources usage. And the Montreal Protocol, particularly, it focuses on the ozone layer protection. And so basically, with respect to these environmental laws, the Environment Act, which is the first one that I've listed, it totally just covers the protection of the environment. In terms of the Wildlife Protection Act, it protects the wildlife and their homes by prevention of hunting, poaching. It also preserves the endangered species. It creates safe zones, and the Biosphere Reserves that was discussed on day one by Dr. Beno and Dr. Neha, it also comes within the ambit of a Wildlife Protection Act. Going on to the next one, which is the Forest Conservation Act. It preserves the forest by regulating the land use so that the trees are not endlessly cut for the environment. So if you have a forest, to what extent can the forest resources be used for your own purposes? So if there's no regulation in a forest, definitely there will be a reckless cutting of trees, and that is definitely very problematic. So for that, we have a Forest Conservation Act. And just linking it to it, so the yesterday's webinar session, which was taken up by Ms. Srishti, and she spoke about agroforestry. It somewhat covers under the Forest Conservation Act, though agroforestry it's actually under the National Agroforestry Policy, but it also falls under this ambit. Then the next one is the Air Prevention and Control Pollution Act, which is basically, by the name of it, focuses on reducing the air pollution by setting rules and regulations. It also monitors air quality data, which is done through the pollution control boards, which is definitely in every state. And there's this one, which is the Central Pollution Control Board. So again, very important, very paramount. And the next and the last one is Water Act, which prevents water pollution by regulating wastewater treatment and ensuring that the industries don't pollute water. So you would just realize that these laws are so important, because if these laws are not existing, then I think it's going to be absolutely no regulation on things, and things can actually turn very negatively for us. So if you have any doubts with respect to these laws, you can actually put up the questions, but towards the end, so that I can also track it. So this was just a basic gist, and in case you would want to read more on that, then I can also share this PPT with you. Then going on to the next one, this is something that I would want you to do. So it's like a knowledge check. And before that, researchers from University of New Mexico studying the presence of microplastics and nanoplastics in the body. I don't know how you actually think about it, but this is something which is extremely alarming, that we as the citizens of the world have gotten to a point where plastics have easily been ingested in our bodies, and it might just be running in your bloodstream right now. So I think it's very alarming. Most of this part has been covered by my colleague, Mr. Rubin, who spoke extensively on plastic with you. But I still wanted to keep this point so that I can actually comprehensively cover whatever we have done over the last 3 days. And so I would want these answers, please. And maybe I can also track it right now. If any one of you can answer it on YouTube, I am able to see that. So if you would answer right now, maybe I can actually track. So for the first question is, India has specialized environmental codes, and what are those called? The right to a healthy environment is considered a fundamental human right under what article of the Constitution? And there was this one particular movement that was there in the 1970s in Uttarakhand. What was that movement called? And it was villagers hugging trees because they didn't want the trees to be cut. Okay. Okay. So I've been told that it is slow. In case you know the answers, then you can probably just note it down, and I could actually take it up through the chat section probably later on and towards the end of the session. Moving on. So how the environment and the human rights are connected with each other. So your right to health is the most important thing, because air pollution that we are going through, something that if you belong to Delhi or even generally, air pollution is something that the air quality that you will witness right now is definitely at a very dangerous level, and that is how it is most of the whole of the year. And with the coming times, you can also see that more and more respiratory diseases are on the rise. There are many more diseases that we actually are becoming victim to because our environment is not clean anymore. And definitely it's not just a individual's responsibility, but all of us need to actually come together and get the solutions for it and be responsible environmental citizens of the world. So right to health, basically. So air pollution leading to respiratory diseases and even water contamination, because I mean industries and the inconsistent use of water and not saving the water. So all these situations are actually leading to a very, very unhealthy environment, which definitely is a violation of our right to health. Second point is the impact of the environmental degradation on human rights. So many aspects are actually covered under this as well, because if you're not living, say, in a healthy environment, and if you're falling sick very, very frequently, definitely there will be a time where you might not want to live there and you might just leave the place and go somewhere else. So that is one thing. Other than that, there are many other impacts. It comes with diseases, it comes with the displacement, and many other factors as well. Then Article 21 of the Indian Constitution is your right to life, and it definitely guarantees you that your environmental right is basically your human right, and you have a right to live a life which is healthy, free of diseases, completely with nutrition, and a proper sustainable life. And the last point that I would like to cover here is the awareness, advocacy, and action. This is something which is very, very important and crucial in terms of you being school students, because I think it's very important for you to learn this at a very young age, that the environment needs an effective attention from your end. If this is not the time where you would act, definitely the future looks very, very dull to me. Not just to me, actually, even I think you can also notice that day by day we are actually moving towards a phase where things are actually slowly slipping out of our hands. And you being school students, you can actually also realize it with respect to the rising temperatures, the sea level rise, and many other factors as well. So with you, the awareness part, so that you also, so it is also very important to not just, speak about environment and climate change. It is also very important that first you yourself become very, very aware by reading on the materials that are authentic materials, that are credible materials. Then comes the next step, which is the advocacy part, and then is the next step, which is the action part. Moving on. So this somewhat links with the previous slide only. And again, so health impact of environmental issues, I've already discussed with you. Access to clean water, it is one of the SDGs and it is your right. But unfortunately, because I mean, as school students, I'm pretty sure even your teachers, even your parents, they would tell you to, not overuse water, or whenever, say, you're brushing your teeth, you're supposed to, turn off the tap. So there are these small steps which you can do, but it is very important that you think about these aspects, that actually if there's a point where you are not able to, have water in your life, imagine a day that you are just not able to have water. And I'm pretty sure that there would be days in your house where you might not have the access to the water one day because there was a water shortage. And particularly in Delhi, there has been a water shortage this year. So how difficult it is for us to actually live. And we are slowly moving towards a point where we will not have access to the fresh water, which is drinkable. And I think it's going to become very, very difficult for all of us. So I think it's very important that at least you think about this aspect, that what kind of a line are we, going towards. Then the next point is the livelihoods. The simple example of this is the Narmada Bachao Andolan. I'm not sure if you have read it, but it is a part of your NCRT. And so, of course, the indigenous people, or the people who were initially living, say, in a forest area, and the trees are supposed to be cut, and the forest which was their dwelling, it is affected because of the developmental factors. Definitely, it forces the local people who are living there to actually leave that place, and definitely their livelihood is very, very much impacted. The last point is children's rights and gender inequality. It is very unfortunate, but this is also very, very true, that the environmental issues, they have a direct proportion on the inequality that happens with the children's rights. So because the children, you as school students, are very, very vulnerable, and so any change with respect to the environment and any degradation that happens, unfortunately, it's your generation that will have to pay for it in the future. So it is extremely important that at least you should think about your actions. And it can be actually small, small steps as a society, but it should be a very conscious decision in terms of even something as small as, segregation of waste. I mean, in a school, like, how many of you actually know that, the plastic waste goes where, and the wet waste would go where, and the dry waste would go where, and what can you actually do? Can you actually compost your the extra vegetable and the fruit peels that you're having from your kitchen? So these are the small steps that you need to think at a school level to make that kind of change. Moving on, I will be speaking a little about the SDGs. So the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted on September 25th, 2015. And before that, we had the Millennial Developmental Goals that actually came in the year 2000, and those existed till 2015. And this came in 2015, the SDGs, and they are supposed to go on till 2030. So they officially came into effect on 1st of January 2016 and aim to be achieved by 2030. And after which, of course, we are assuming that we will have a new set of goals, which could be even broader than the SDGs that we have right now. One thing that I would want you to note is that it's unfortunate, but we don't have a SDG for clean air, which is something which is actually a missing part, because again, water, air, everything is very, very important for us to live. So that is one thing which is missing from this current SDG. The SDGs are interconnected and aim to balance social, economic, and environmental sustainability, creating a world where everyone can thrive without harming the planet. Now, I actually don't know how many of you are aware of all the SDGs, but if you actually get time, then you must actually go through each and every SDG, and you'll be able to know how collective it is for everyone in the society, because it is not very very country specific, it is very global specific. So because it's so global specific, that is one big step why we aim to go towards a sustainable world. So it actually broadly covers most of the issues that as a world we are facing, which you will see in the next slide now. So again, this is an activity, but these are all the SDGs. I want you to actually tell me if any one of you know which is the 6th one, which is the 7th one, which is the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. I will reveal these, and maybe we can come back to this towards the end, because I want you to answer the SDGs to me. Okay, roughly about UNESCO. So UNESCO basically promotes international cooperation in environmental law. So I would just connect UNESCO with environmental law. So particularly UNESCO doesn't really itself create any kind of environmental treaties, but it does support the member states in implementing and adhering to all the international law agreements. It focuses on education, on cultural heritage preservation. In terms of our natural science sector, we are working extensively on the biosphere reserves, on mangrove restoration and conservation. And all of these components are very, very crucial towards safeguarding our environment. Something that I've missed is also women in science. So that is something also that we really focus upon. And I would urge all the young ladies out there to actually, initiate your careers towards the scientific field, because I think you are also the torch bearers of tomorrow. You are also very, very important in making the decisions. You will be the future business tycoons. You will be the future administrator. So it's very, very important for you to also be a part of the scientific community, and it actually needs you at a very, very large scale. moving on to the next one. These are just two short clips, but I don't know how that makes you feel. But this is basically what the future looks like. It's very unfortunate, but this is what the future looks like. I'm pretty sure that whenever you take a trip with your parents to some hill station, all you see around you is plastic. And definitely, if you are living in Delhi and if you belong to a school in Delhi, you would actually see a lot of pollution here in the city. So this is not something that we are just facing at a particular region, but this is something that we are now facing as a global citizen. So the issue of plastic, the issue of pollution, the issue of water, we actually desperately need solutions towards this. Okay, so now the topic that I'm actually going towards is fast fashion. I don't know how many of you know this term, but fast fashion simply means that you are trying to cope with the ongoing trends in the market, as a result of which you will endlessly buy clothes from different brands, which could be at a cheaper rate, but it definitely comes with a price. And so I will begin with this. Let's read a few facts. So every second, a garbage truck's worth of textile is landfilled or burnt. So every second. Meanwhile, I've just spoken for 40 minutes, 55 seconds exactly. You can imagine how much of the textiles would have been landfilled by now. Making one pair of jeans uses around 2,000 gallons of water. Textile dyeing is the second largest water polluter globally. And imagine this is the same water that you might be drinking. Textiles contribute approximately 9% of annual microplastic pollution in the oceans, ultimately the plastic that's actually entering into our bodies. So this is how alarming this is. The source of this information is the United Nations Environment Program. You can also look up on their article if you would want to. So talking about this, fast fashion refers to the rapid production of the inexpensive clothing inspired by the latest trends. And it basically prioritizes a quick turnover. So weekly, your fashion trends would change and you would definitely have an urge to go shop again, which is actually leading to a lot of frequent purchases and also a lot of disposal of the clothing items. Now, the issue with this, what exactly is the issue that is coming is that much more than we require in terms of our clothing, we are endlessly buying the clothes. And as a result of it, we have a lot of waste clothes that we are throwing away. But this is not the only problem. The problem is that we first and foremost are not looking up on the kind of clothing fabrics that we are wearing. Most of the clothing items that you're finding in the fast fashion industry are very, very synthetic items. As a result of which, when they are being washed consistently in the washing machine, there are these small fiber-like materials which are coming out of those clothes, and ultimately those are being drained and reaching the rivers and the oceans, and all that has microplastics. So this is like a big issue now, because and it's also leading to water pollution because the dyeing part, it requires a lot of colors. There's a lot of water usage which is there when it comes to dyeing a cloth, and it releases the harmful chemicals into the waterways, which ultimately again is reaching us. So you see, it's a very vicious cycle. It's just that the things that we are actually giving to the environment, it's actually coming back to us, but it's actually coming back to us in a very, very harmful way. So also the carbon footprint. So the manufacturing, so the carbon footprint, if I have to just explain it to you simply, it's the total amount of the greenhouse gases which are emitted directly or indirectly by the human activities. So say you're traveling through a car. So that is something that your car is being run on a fossil fuel, and that is how that fossil fuel would release carbon dioxide into the air, and that is how you're contributing towards a carbon footprint. So that's the simplest way I could just put it to. And so these activities, I will just list a few, are those like energy transportation, manufacturing goods, and disposal of waste. So you must realize that the clothes that you see in a particular store, what has the journey of that whole cloth been? That the synthetic part, the manufacture of that synthetic fiber, and then the dyeing of that fabric, and then the whole production is done, the manufacture part is done, and those are then packed, and then the whole transportation thing is happening. Ultimately, it reaches you. You would wear it, say, for a week, and then you would discard it, and then it reaches the landfill. So do you realize that the amount of burden that is there over this because of this fast fashion industry that's frequently happening? One major thing that you should note here is that there's a lot of child labor which is involved in the fast fashion industry. A lot of child labor. And I think it's definitely one of the biggest human rights violations. And definitely the working conditions which are there in these industries are very poor. There are very low wages. There's definitely a risk involved. And so I want all of you to actually pledge or probably promise to yourself that you would take conscious steps in terms of what clothing material you're wearing, how much of the, I mean, you should focus more. I mean, I totally understand that at an age where you are at, it's very difficult to decide between should I go ahead with a fashion trend or should I actually wear a cloth on a repetitive basis. But you must realize that it is a very conscious decision on your end. So after you, all of you collectively decide to not really go ahead with this and you actually prefer the quality over the quantity, that is how you will actually win this battle with the fast fashion, because this is something that actually impacts you directly. Fast fashion is something that is there for the youth, because it's something that, you know, with the changing fashion, you are also likely to be more attracted and end up buying more and more clothes. But it is very important for you to decide that you buy quality material cloths over over the quantity, so that your clothes, they don't wear and tear over time, because the cheap material that they are making, and you can actually even test it out for yourself. You buy a cloth which you find that, you know, is reasonably okay, and you're going to wear it, say, for a week, and on comparison you can buy a cloth which is good in quality, and then you can compare both the clothing materials on how and which one actually sustains for a longer time. So this is something that I actually wanted to bring forward, because it is very relevant to you. The solutions, what are the solutions to this problem? So quality over quantity, promoting a conscious consumerism. So you must be conscious enough to actually realize what you're contributing towards the environment. Sorry, I was just looking at the time. Then you can also actually support thrift shops. So I don't think India particularly is a lot into the thrift shopping, but I think it's always better to, if you're finding a thrift shop and say you like something, it's nice to reuse and revamp old clothes. Then you can also do something which is a donation of clothes. I don't know how many of you would actually do that, but it's always better, so that from you, somebody else who's needy can actually probably wear it. Then choosing sustainable brands. So I don't know for age groups who are in 6th to 8th how relevant it is for you to choose sustainable brands, but I'm pretty sure from standards 10 to 12th or 9 to 12th, you'll be pretty aware of how you can choose the sustainable brands. You have the access to the internet, so you have a better understanding also of which brands are actually more sustainable. You can actually use the natural fibers, and also it will keep your body much healthier, you know, because ultimately when you're wearing an artificial fabric, it definitely impacts your body also. And then repurposing your old clothes, and then the most important is spreading awareness. So this is something that I wanted to put out as a message for you all, so that you can even spread out this particular message, how the fast fashion industry is impacting us. I would actually want to state a few examples that I looked up into, and I won't name the companies, but these are a few solutions that have been given in terms of upcycling. So discarded materials like plastic bottles, ocean waste, these are the materials which many companies, many private entities as their business models have transformed into new clothing and accessories. So this is, I think it's a very grand change, I would say, that it's a big step towards, you know, this particular problem. See, it's very simple that we cannot really get rid of plastic. Even if you're going to switch to, say, eco-friendly materials, I think that's a very conscious and good step, but you cannot eliminate plastic completely. So we need to come up with innovative solutions to deal with this particular problem. Another example is your waste materials like used chewing gum and tires are finding new uses in the footwear production. So there is this one particular company which uses the used tires, and those are being converted as the base sole of a shoe. And the upper material which is being made, which you can see right here. So the white part here is made of tires, and the green part here is being made of cloth. And of course the laces are made of the cloth. So that is also one business idea. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I totally understand that eventually in the future, many of you will turn into lawyers, many of you will turn into people who belong to the scientific community, many of you will actually turn your lives towards entrepreneurship. And so these are the things which you will some or the other way encounter. You might turn into diplomats and administrators and whatnot. So you must always have this innovation in your mind, and you must always maneuver through the problems that are ongoing in terms of the environment. We might not emphasize much on how our environment is relevant to us, but like I said, it's very, very directly proportional on how much we are going to survive. If we are going to kill the environment, then our end will also be very, very near. It's very simple. Then the next is that there is surplus fabric scraps that are being creatively utilized. So there's this one particular problem with the textile industry also, that the cloth that has been made completely, the residue of that product, say this much amount of a cloth, that will be thrown away because it's a scrap and it will no longer be of use. So these are the few materials that are being used, say, to stitch up a jacket together, to make blankets of those scrap materials. So this is also an innovative idea. And then taking back old clothes. So there are legit few companies who are taking initiatives that you can actually send your clothes which are used back to them and they recycle it for you. So these are very, very interesting examples which you can also look up into. And I think it's going to be very, very important for you. So a few more videos that I wanted to show you. So this is basically a crow, and in the background you can see the amount of plastic that's there in the water body. Same, I think this is a river. Video is not coming. Now? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you can see my video. I'm not able to see it on YouTube, but roughly explaining, I have actually shown a video in which a loaded truck is actually dumping the plastic, and there's pollution, there's a situation where there's drought happening.